Welcome everyone to another episode of Plug in Your Mind. We are here today with
It's P. I'm here.
Your brother Jay here. Welcome back.
and this is Chin. So today we'll be talking about does your childhood affect your adult life? And we will love to hear you guys' feedback. So please don't be shy. Please engage with us and let's get this started. So, who wants to take this on? P, J?
I'm gonna go on this one. Like this category right here. This is gonna be quite a show today, ladies and gentlemen. P and Chin. When we break this down, we're going into environment. Like we're gonna keep it
Yes.
real for our audience. Our audience is gonna keep it real with us, right? So we broke this down because we have like seven categories. They all fall into environment, and we're gonna go into our first category. Growing up as a child, like we're all what? We're all like in our 30s.
Yes.
So I think oh, I'm sorry.
I'm still 16,
I'm sorry. You know
but
what?
that's in my mind.
Ages don't want to be accessible right now.
A woman never reveals her age, okay?
What? You know, we're gonna say that for another episode. Eh? I think we're gonna.
Oh, yeah, that's an
we're gonna touch
interesting
on that.
topic.
Yeah, because I want to know why. But you know,
I'm gonna ask my mama why. Because my mama, I would never.
We're gonna have your mama on the show.
I would never reveal it, but every time I tell somebody how old my mom is, and I go back and my mom was like, Krista, why did you do that?
Yeah.
Like, all right, mom, you look good for your age, She said, but why did you do that? I don't want anybody to know how old I am. I was like, all right,
Yeah.
cool, next time I know.
They get offended.
You get offended, right?
Yeah, it's just like quick, like, hey, I was like, all right, cool. No worries. I ain't saying no more.
Okay, so would it be easier if you ladies just gave the month and the year?
You just don't say. You just,
I always
just don't
I
say
almost-
nothing.
You know, I think it's an unspoken rule,
Okay.
especially for women
Okay.
and women of color, to not ask, so how old are you? I don't think I've even asked P her age. I just assumed we are the same age. Not that I don't know her age, but it's not like I'm gonna be like, oh, today, Chris is 30. Like, no.
See? No.
We just don't ask. Yeah.
All right.
that's true.
All right. I
And I
respect
only
that.
know my mom's age because I have to look after her documents. So
Yes.
that's how I know her actual age. But before this, I had no clue. No clue.
It's true. I didn't even know how old my dad was. Yeah, when he was celebrating his birthday, until I didn't even know my dad's name was Murray.
They don't
Until-
put candles on.
until the day of his funeral. I was like, who's this person?
It's
Sorry,
crazy.
folks. We're just
We're just having a
We're
moment.
just having a moment,
Yes,
but
yes.
that's how it
Moment
goes
here.
sometimes,
Yep.
right?
But it's crazy because that's what friends do. They have moments.
Yeah.
And speaking of friends, did your friends during your childhood, all right? Is it like a yes or no when it comes to affecting your childhood? Friends growing up. Can you remember your friends growing up? Are they still your friends?
Friends growing up, because I would have two different set of friends. I would have friends from Jamaica, and then to the time where I migrated to Toronto. I don't remember any of my friends from Jamaica. Like, I remember certain experiences, and I might be able to remember one or two names, but I don't remember them. And if I would see them, I'll probably walk by them, which that have happened like the first time I ever went back to Jamaica and to my old neighborhood, and I heard someone call me like, Chin, and I was like, I'm looking over my shoulder, and my cousin's like, don't you know who that is? And I'm like, no. And she was like, that's Jerry. Jerry was a cute little thing, you know what I'm saying? Hey, Jerry. But I was like, no, I don't remember Jerry. And she's like, yeah, that's Jerry. And I was like, oh, okay, hi. Like, just as dry as that, hi. Because I could not remember him. So my friends from Jamaica, no. Friends when I migrated to Toronto, yes and no. Yes and no. I've passed through a lot of friends, but I only have a handful of friends remaining.
Remaining.
And I've been here 20 something years now.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, I've gone through quite a few, but I only have a handful remain that are actual loyal friends that I still talk and communicate with, that have made impact in my life, that have shown me certain things. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me just ask you before we go over and get your perspective, Pete.
Yeah.
Those friends that you're still connected with, do you guys still think alike? Like, is there an impact? Like, is it a form of attitude that bonds you together? What makes those friends still those friends? Like, is there some kind of bond that you have from childhood that y'all brought together into your adulthood?
Yeah. So my handful of friends are literally 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hence, handful.
Four.
Handful, yes.
Four friends. 4 core friends.
Oh,
And
the 4 horsemen.
for instance, like with P, if I'm supposed to go back all the way to what, 95, 96, I think that's when
Yeah, it
we
was
first
94,
clicked up.
95, yeah.
Yeah.
around that time.
So around those times,
Yeah.
right? And I can go back and remember like instances of us on the schoolyard.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I can remember stuff of when we disconnected. And the first time we reconnected and had a conversation, and it was not like it wasn't like we were, so what happened during those times we weren't talking? Where were you? Why did you leave? No, it was just like straight connect. It was like magnet drawn back together.
Yeah.
And you're just having a regular, normal conversation. You're not thinking to yourself, oh, so what's the next question I'm going to ask her? What's the next thing I'm going to say to her? It was just magnetic. Past that, when we're like officially reconnected, I think every year we have a story of the summer that passed. You know, something that will always draw us back to each other where,
course.
you know, we're Caribbean babies. We love
Yeah.
summer. We love sun. We love beach. We love Lyman, right?
We call it Roman season.
Exactly.
Yes, when the weather starts to get nice, Chin and P, or Chin and Crystal comes out. Or Empress
roam.
and Chin, we roam. So we roam. Just
Like, that's what we do.
freely, you know?
Yeah.
So when winter months come and we're not able to roam,
Yep.
you know, we can sit on the phone and talk about, remember when we went to this and remember when we went to that? And so we'll always be connected with that. And we'll also be connected with like her personal stories.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? So even though we connect on a friend level where, you know, it's having fun, it's going out, you know, with other friends, but we also are able to sit down and have serious conversations with each other.
Yeah.
Where she's either enlightening me about something or maybe it's the other way around. So there's that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love the breakdown. P, what's your take on friends? Had they had a huge impact coming up from your childhood to now?
Not so much for me. As similar to what Chin was saying. When I left Trinidad, to be honest with you, I left a lot in Trinidad when I came up to Canada. And I didn't want to come up to Canada. So, you know, that was an instant change for me. And I do still talk to some of my childhood friends, but we're not so close. So if I see them, we just chop it up. I just, you know, ask them how life is going and, you know, how's your parents, if they're still around, and that sort of thing. And I guess I made new friends when I came to Canada, and Chin is one of them. Exactly how she explained that story is exactly how I feel, you know. Even though we went to different high schools after we went middle school, we just reconnected, and it was just something special. Actually, God showed me that, Chin is going to be in my life. Yeah. And I've reconnected with other friends that we have gone to school with, you know, but the connection is not there, you know, and that's okay. But my friends did not play like a significant role in me, like changing my attitude and having that behavioral. No, for me, it was just normal. It was very normal for me with my friends. Yeah, I didn't have much ups and downs with my friends, I should say. Thank you very much, God.
Yeah. For real.
And I think because, you know, when I came up to Canada, and Chin could probably relate to this, man, your mom was, you can't go outside, you have to be at your house at a certain time. And yeah, I had to come home. After school, it was straight home. There was no time to be
There's
on
no
the road.
itching.
Yeah, you had to be home. Even though your mom was not home,
Yeah.
if she called on that house phone, you had to pick that phone up. So I didn't have that opportunity that other Canadian kids had to go outside and hang out and, go in the park and do whatever. I had to come home. So yeah, I had some limits on what I could have
course.
done as a child with my friends.
And let these folks know, your house was 2 blocks away from the school. Mine was about 3.5 blocks away from the school. Parents would time you.
Yeah, most
Okay,
definitely.
so they know it will take you about 5 minutes to get out of school and get home. And that house phone, because we had no cell phone, so they couldn't call us on a cell phone and we'll be like, "Yeah, I'm home." When you're out at the park, no, it was the house phone. So when they call that landline, you better be there to pick it up on the first ring, not the last ring. Because if you pick it up on the last ring, where were you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Countdown. That's a good breakdown, ladies. For me, I would say yes because of basically our childhood. Our friends, now, we all grew up seeing a lot in our neighborhood. I'm from the west end of Toronto, and we all grew up in metro housing, subsidized housing, and we didn't have much. But we also had like these goals and dreams to want to be somebody, and not just anybody, like somebody to make a difference.
Yeah.
And I just noticed that, again, I'm going to throw some shout outs here. Jason Blackwoods, Adam Ali, Shanika, Shantae, Kizian. Like, these are all entrepreneurs that I grew up in my neighborhood. I mean, and these are brothers and sisters that I actually look up to. Most of them I'm actually older than. We're all within the 80s range.
Yeah.
But it's just like we all knew where we came out of. And we wanted to make a difference. Most of us came out of single parent homes. So we wanted to, give back to the community. And the best way to doing that was to be honest. And no disrespect to anyone who's working a job, but we felt that entrepreneurship would be a long-lasting effect on growing up. So, I mean, it did affect my childhood in regards to what I wanted to do as I got older. So I'm very grateful for those brothers and sisters. And there's not just them. There's like a lot. So if I didn't mention your name, please forgive me. But, I mean, those directly grew up out of the same neighborhood I did. And these are my friends till this day. So I definitely shout them out, and it played an impact on how I perceive life, especially from a business perspective, and just, for all the younger brothers and sisters coming up, like, your childhood does play an effect, but always keep in mind of the positive things. Like, we've seen both.
Yeah.
We've seen positive, and I'm pretty sure you ladies can relate.
Yeah.
We've seen both positivity and negativity, but at the same time, we have to remember the consequences, right? And that's kind of what put us in a situation where we wanted to focus on just moving forward in a positive direction.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
right. So, yeah, man. So that's my take on Friends. I love your take, P and Shin. And then that kind of brings us, speaking of friends, it kind of goes in a domino effect. Because now we're on to school. Now, I'm pretty sure we went to school with these friends. But how has school, or should I say, has school impacted your childhood into how you perceive education, business? Who wants to go first on that one? Because, I mean, schools, I mean, it's a huge topic today.
Listen, I can remember I hated everything about school. I don't know if I've ever even told you guys this, but my mom knew this for sure, where I always used to say, if I could burn down my school and surrounding schools, and the reason why I say surrounding schools is because if your school is damaged, they're going to send you to the closest school. So if I damage all of them, then they don't have anywhere to send me.
Damn, I think all the kids would have loved you, Chin.
I hated school with a passion. I used to just give my mom blank paper as she's like putting on her shoes, going out the door, like, "Oh, Mom, I forgot there's a field trip and I need you to sign the paper." And I'll just write, and she'll sign the paper, and I'll just the next day bring her in and be like, sorry, Shiriko was sick and she could not make it into school. My mom had no idea, until like the end of the week when the principal calls her and be like, Shiriko's been missing for 3 days this week. And my mom be like, 3 days? What do you mean 3 days? She went to a field trip, and they'd be like, what field trip?
Yeah.
But I hated school. So I used to have a couple of friends, like, I'm remember now, like, from high school days, right?
Yeah.
And I used to have a couple of friends who, in my high school, there's a particular area called BPH, Black People Hallway. Okay?
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, girl.
Yes.
Whoa.
And when you go to the BPH, no matter what period it was, you always find someone there skipping class. And, you know, all link up at the beginning of, you know, that particular period and be like, you sit down for 5-10 minutes, see who rolls in, and then we all go down to the basement.
Yeah.
Everybody be playing cards, something like, you know what I'm saying? And then be
Yeah.
like, okay, third period is up, who's going to fourth, right?
Yeah, yep.
You see a 1-2 person get up, go to fourth period, and, you know, whoever wants to stay back and skip fourth period, cool. I used to hang out with those folks because I hated going to class. And I would only show up when there's a time to do a test.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think this was grade 11. Yeah, I think this is around grade 11. And it was the end of the school semester, and I showed up to go do a test. And we were leaving. I finished early doing the test because I just wrote down what I knew, and I left, right?
Yeah.
And the principal came out, and he saw me, like, dashing out of the school, right? And he's like, he always used to call me Tisha. He's like, Tisha, I see you. I dash out into the parking lot, ducking behind the cars, hiding. Everyone else left except for me because this man was going behind every car looking for me. I'm like, damn. So I stood up, and he's like, come. You know, with the finger points at me, come. I remember this day. It was March 10th. Okay? We're going on March break. March 10th. Come. I went with him to the office, and there's this other guy that I always used to skip class with. But whenever we're in the principal office together, they always separate us. Okay? So he's on one end of the office, I'm on one end. So that Mr. Elam, that was his name, my principal at the time, he came out and he's like, all I wanted to do is give you a piece of cake. Right? And I was like, cake? It was his birthday. That's how I remember the date, March 10th. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I got the cake, but he's like, but you still can't leave until the bell goes off, right? I was like, damn. So I'm like, all right, cool. So, you know, I'm walking back through the BPH, and everyone's like, yo, where did you get cake from? I'm like, oh, it was Mr. Elm's birthday. And they're like, so how comes you get cake, but nobody else get no cake? I'm like, because I'm always in the office, right? So this girl, Crystal, not this other Crystal, and she's like, Shrika, you know if you showed up to school every day, you get a good mark? I'm like, I got a 60, I'm good.
Yeah.
That was my response. I'm like, I got a 60, I'm good. She's like, no, but if you showed up every day, because you only show up to do tests.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. Isn't that the only thing that matters? Like passing the class? Like that's the only thing that mattered, right?
Yeah.
And the person I always used to skip class with was like her best friend. At this point, I think she had already dropped out of high school. And the only reason why I stuck it through high school was because one of my friends that I used to go to her house every day after school, her mom said, if you drop out of school, you can no longer come back to this house.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? What do you mean I can't come back to this house? And she's like, yeah, we don't do dropouts here. And I end up staying in high school, and I finished high school, got my diploma, and I left. But friends, especially if, you know, you're in a mindset where you're like, I don't care about this, I don't want to be here, and you have someone who you link up with, who you think is a friend. Not to say that this person was a bad person, but where you both have the same mindset where you just don't want to be here. Yeah. Unless you have someone in your life who sees what's happening, because I grew up in a single parent home.
Yeah.
My mom, she had no time to really see what was happening in terms of my school. Because now, if my son comes to me with a blank piece of paper, tell me to go put my name on it, he forgot to tell me something, that's cool. Then you're just going to miss that trip because I knew nothing about it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I could have got those stuff past my mom because, one, I was the first kid to ever go to school in Canada, so she didn't know how the process worked or anything. So I knew I could have pulled those stuff over her head, right?
Of course.
But now let my son try that. He can't pull those stuff past me, right? Because I know all those tricks.
Yeah.
But if you're in an environment and you're not focused and you have someone else who has the same mindset as you, yeah, you can go down a wrong road in school. So for me, I hated school. And as soon as I finished high school, I was done. Did college, I was out. So many times I thought about going back to school and upgrading stuff, and I'm like, hell no. But now, at the age that I am, 37, I think about it. But I'm like, man, I just can't. Like, I can't get... It's like that mentality I had as a child, it's still stuck with me in some weird way. Although I know that I can, but I'm still like, I talk myself out of it because I'm like, no, you can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, it's weird. It's very weird. It's very weird.
Pete.
I would say yes. When it came to school and grades, growing up in the Caribbean, and people, if you got Caribbean parents or you're from the Caribbean, you know that school was very important. School work was very important. If you were lacking in one subject, you would be doing extra lessons after school, even on the weekends. I'm telling you, I would be doing my homework or even, doing extra lessons. And to be honest with you, I was afraid to make mistakes. Because if I was to be picked up on that work and I did not know anything of what I was doing, licks. So that fear for me was there. I was fearful to make a mistake, even ask a question as a child. And when you're going through school in the Caribbean, especially when it's time for tests and exams, and they had something called common entrance. Yeah. Now you would be practicing and doing extra lessons for this particular moment of your life. Yeah. And you just, you're doing what you have to do, and you go write this test now. And the one thing that I hated that they used to do was publish your name in the newspaper with your school. And listen, schools were graded, like, wow, you had a top school, a middle school, a low school. And the whole community knew. It wasn't nothing to be hiding. It wasn't like it's going to be published in the school. It's in the newspaper. So the whole community knows. Now, if your kid passed for a low school, automatically these people would put you in a category of dunce, you're stupid, that's how it was. And that was an effect on a lot of students, that fear for passing for a low grade school, and you're like, nothing. You're like, if I pass for a school, I'm stupid, I'm a dunce, I'm like, what am I, you know what I'm saying? So I was so afraid, like when you're writing these exams, that you passing for a school, because there I am thinking about my name being published in the newspaper and the whole community knowing that, hey, there's Crystal, like a big duncy head, like,
See the dummy coming through.
Yeah, and Caribbean people have a way of, even though it's a bad situation, they just have a way of making it worse by labeling you, putting labels on you and making you feel really, really bad. If you were feeling bad about yourself already, they're actually making you feel real, real bad about yourself. So that had an effect on me. And when I had my son and I started to do lessons with him, I realized something about myself with my son, like I was doing with how I was brought up with schoolwork, and I realized that was something wrong. Learning shouldn't be fearful, Yeah. And you shouldn't be afraid to learn. Learning is part of life. You're supposed to learn different things, and if you make mistakes, that's okay. That's how we learn as a human being, And why am I instilling fear in my son? I was brought up like that, and it's not a good feeling, because when he makes a mistake, he feels that he can't come to me to, for help, and I should not have that. And I was just like, I was like, there's no way I want to raise my child like how I was brought up. Yeah. So for me, yes, definitely, that does play a significant part. That grade thing and that school thing, especially Caribbean parents, my gosh, They on you. They got the
talk.
whip ready for you. Whip, belt, ruler, pot spoon, pot cover. You don't know what's going on there.
That is crazy, and I appreciate the share. Like, I mean,
It's
you bring flashbacks of all these
No,
weapons of utility here,
I'm
like
just
artillery.
remembering the whole thing about like the common entrance and stuff because I remember like a recent story
Yeah.
with my partner. There, I guess his nieces and nephew they did their common entrance, and I guess for one of them it didn't go so well, but he didn't share the news with his parents, right? But the parents heard about it from the neighbors because they saw it in the paper. So he's coming home
Exposed.
thinking like, they
Yeah.
don't know nothing. I ain't gotta
Yeah.
tell them nothing, right?
Yeah.
But the neighbor already told on you because they done read the paper.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot those days.
It's crazy. From my experience,
Yeah.
personally, there's two teachers. Before I get into these two teachers from elementary, do you ladies know who Marva Collins is?
No.
no.
No? All right, so Marva Collins was a teacher in Chicago. And it's not because I'm bringing it up because it's Black History
Yeah.
Month or anything, but I would recommend, not just for you two sisters, but for everyone listening, watch the Marva Collins story.
Okay.
I mean, the reason why I recommend that story so much, because based on a true story, she took a whole bunch of students from like a rough neighborhood in Chicago, and she brought them to an environment where they would learn more about stocks and trades. So not only did she educate them, but she had an utmost love for them that she wanted to. She started her own school, right? And I think she started in her apartment, if I remember correctly, or in an apartment building, and it just flourished. So what I noticed from that story, what the moral of that story is her love to want to give back to the students, like her genuine, enthusiastic character.
Yes.
And the reason why I bring her up as well is because these two teachers I'm about to mention, Miss Eisen, who was of German ancestry, and Miss Arthur, who actually was Black, and she lived in the hood with us. So I don't know how many people know a teacher that actually lives in the same hood as you.
Yeah.
So those two teachers, they emphasized so much love to want to see us develop and grow. I mean, so for me, it has impacted my life a lot, especially now that I teach youth, I work with youth. You have to have that love, that enthusiastic character. I think that's lacking in a lot of schools today. And that's why students are not really, I'm not giving students the pass on why they
Yeah.
believe school is boring, but I do believe that the enthusiastic character of the individual, or the teacher for that matter, whether he or she, it has to be displayed before those students. And Miss Eisen and Miss Arthur did an incredible job. They tried their best, right? Were they successful with all of us? No, but they tried their best to put out their effort to make us feel loved, embraced. I mean, especially a lot of us coming out of single parent homes.
Yes.
Like Miss Eisen, for example, she came into our neighborhood. After school, most teachers, they typically, they do their reports and they take off. They either live in Oakville,
Yeah.
Brampton, far away from where they're teaching. Miss Eisen, for example, my grade 3 teacher, she would come into our neighborhood. Because she wants us to do our homework right after school when we
Yeah.
get home. And we all tell her, we lied. We're like, yeah, sure, we'll do it. No problem, Miss Eisen. Because who's going to expect little Miss Eisen to come into our projects and see if we're really going to do it? Or are we going to actually play basketball? And there's several times she came into our neighborhood and she's seen us. She's watching. You're shooting hoops with your boys
Yeah.
and your girls, and you just look to the side, and it's like you have that Michael Myers moment, like someone's watching.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just like, wait a minute. You turn it. You see this little Caucasian lady from the distance staring at you guys. Everyone's grabbing their bags and they're going to do their homework. You know what I mean? She used to come into the neighborhood. She would see older heads that were caught up in the gang life, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, "Is that you, Michael?" And Michael's there. Oh, yeah. Hey, Miss Eisen, taking off his hat, his bandana. Like she had the utmost respect from the neighborhood.
Yes.
Because she cared.
Yeah.
And that really impacted me to care for those who I teach, those who I'm involved. And I always recommend that for others. Show the students love. Show them that you care. Because they see it. They know they're not, our children, our future is not stupid.
Yeah.
They know if you care or not. You know what I mean? And even if they don't feel you care, still show that care because you tried. The effort goes a long way. And that played a role. I could have been doing a lot of things in the streets. I mean, like I said, I'm not perfect, but at the end of the day, these teachers put an opportunity to realize that someone does care for me. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Someone does care for that next brother or sister who may feel no one cares for them. And that had a huge impact. You know what I mean? There's a reason why I try to, like I said, I never been in the street gangs. You know what I mean? I never got caught up in that life. I'm not putting down those who've done. Everyone has their choices they make, right? But it was those teachers that played a big role, because it's not hard for a young brother like myself, or now an older, to get involved in activities at a young age. Mm-hmm. Remember, your environment plays a big role. Definitely. So I have to shout out those two teachers, Miss Eisen, Miss Arthur. I'm not too sure if they're alive. If they have passed, may God bless their beings. But I mean, they played a significant role. I'm in my mid-30s, and till this day, I cannot forget those two teachers. Every word they told me, they were repetitive, and they drilled it. Always remember when you go outside, I'll never forget this phrase, always remember when you go outside who you represent your parents first. I mean, that stuck with me.
That's powerful.
To be honest, usually people say you represent yourself, you represent your parents first, because they knew that our parents were striving to make a better living for us. Coming from the islands, my mom is from Jamaica, forever. It doesn't matter. Yeah, exactly. Whether it's Jamaica, whether it's in Asia, whether it's in Africa, you're coming here for an opportunity.
Yes.
And that really had an impact on me. And so I want to have that impact on others that I come across.
That's important. That's very important. Schools are supposed to be like your second home, right?
Absolutely.
And for some place that is supposed to be like your second home, you want to feel that love. You want to feel that people do care about you, right?
Yep.
And say, for instance, you're coming from a home where you don't get that love or affection, and you're going into school and you get that. You want to go to school every day.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
You know, you want to show up every day because you know you're receiving that love.
Yeah.
But if you're not receiving the love at home, you're not receiving the love at school, you're not going to want to be at either place. You're going to want to be on the street.
Yeah.
And we know what comes from being on the street, right?
Yep, it's true.
So kudos to those two teachers. That's very powerful.
I appreciate that. And it's interesting, Chin, how you mentioned the home. You know, a lot of people say, foundation, charity, discipline starts in the home.
Most definitely.
And what are the chances, because our next topic, our category is on family. Family. How has family, like I know you two ladies are not just my co-hosts, but you're wonderful and thankful mothers. So now you got to go back. And guess what? It's not even Mother's Day. And I'm saying, that's right. Respect your mothers every day. Just don't wait till Mother's Day.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yeah, every day is Mother's Day.
And Father's Day.
Yes, definitely.
Do they have a Son and Daughter's Day yet?
No, they don't. But every day is everybody's day.
Let's get it.
Right.
There you go.
So family. Has family during your childhood, has that had an impact on your adulthood, on how you look at yourself as a parent, or wanting to affect how you look at life or family or bonding? Or has it had another impact where you feel maybe isolated, maybe you're not a family-oriented individual? How has it affected? Has it impacted? Let me know, ladies. Let our audience know. Family.
For me, yes, it has definitely impacted my life as a childhood. I grew up in a single-parent household, and my mom was in a very toxic environment in her household. There's lots of abuse, and verbally and physically. And my mom left Trinidad to better her life, and my grandmother decided that she would take care of me while my mom goes and finds, get herself situated and stuff like that, and she would send for me at a later part. And I grew up with my grandmother, and one thing I'm very grateful of how my grandmother raised me. I'm thankful the way that she instilled certain values and morals. She also showed me what true, pure love was, and I'm very thankful for that. And I knew who my dad was. Yes, my dad played a significant role in my childhood. I knew who my dad was. He used to come around every now and then. As a kid, I loved my dad. There was nothing you could have told me about my dad that, would have changed anything about him as a child. As the years went by, things definitely, I guess I got older and I sort of understood the situation more. When my mom used to come back home, I used to stay with my mom, you know, and I remember there was times where my dad never used to call me or even, you know, come and check me. I just never understood, you know, why, you know. And I remember my dad worked in the oil field at them times there, and we lived close to a main road, so you could normally see people who are coming down the road. So I normally used to wait because I knew I would stand up outside my porch and look to see, you know, if my dad is around. And there I am as a child. You know, as a child, you're so anxious, you're excited, you know.
Yeah.
You're just all bubbly, you know.
Yeah.
I would be looking, you know, and I see my dad coming on, like, hey, daddy, like, you know, calling him out real loud. And the man even turned around to even look like, you know, and I was just like, he never looked. I was like, Mom, he never looked. And I felt so sad inside to know that those times I never saw you, you never called me, and there you were passing, and you never. I was wondering if you never thought about me, you know. You never looked. And I found out, there was something that I found out that my dad and I shared, which really impacted like how I would change the way I think about him and stuff like that. I found out that my dad was married the same day I was born, right? So my dad, his anniversary is on December the 12th, and I was born on December the 12th. And there was lots of times in my relationship with my father where he never called me on my birthday. He just never picked up that phone to call me. And I never understood why he never called. But I knew that he never forgot who I was, because if he was celebrating his anniversary, he must have remembered that it's Crystal's birthday, you know?
Yeah.
And that celebration for your birthday became a thing where I just never wanted to celebrate my birthday. Even up to this day and age, I'm not a big fan of celebrating my birthday, and I think for me, it has to do with my birthday not being, you know, not recognized, but my father not calling me for my day, you know, and, you know, wishing me happy birthday and that type of stuff. And like I said, I felt isolated. I never knew, you know, what was going on. I never got a chance to ask him why, you know, because we just never got around to that. I left Trinidad and I came to Canada, you know. I came to Canada in 1995, 94, around that time there. And when I left a lot. Like I said before, I left everything I known, things that I loved. And I was very, you know, passionate, and people I loved. I left that. And I came to a life that I wasn't ready for, and I just didn't understand that life, you know. And when I came up here, not only was I dealing with some daddy issues and stepmother issues, and even people around my community, you know, with their verbal and physical abusive ways. When I came up to Canada, I was dealing with my stepdad, you know. And there I was dealing with another set of issue. I was dealing with my dad issue, then I was dealing with my stepmom, then I have to come here to deal with my stepdad issues, you know. He used to be, I just didn't know how to approach him, you know, because he wasn't so approachable. And I used to feel like I was in a prison in my own home. To be honest with you, when I was here in Canada, my best times were outside my house. I love to be outside of my home because I just didn't have to think about my problem. I didn't have to worry, like, if I go home, what sort of attitude or what sort of person I would have, you know, been dealing with. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So my best times were outside of my house. And at that time in my life, like I said, I was going through a lot. I didn't have anybody to talk to. I couldn't talk to my mom. I was bunking heads with my mom. So my mom was feeling everything that I was going through because that was just a whole bunch of emotions just piling up. So I used to have a lot of anger issues. I had anger issues build up inside. And when these trigger moments happened for me, my mom got that end of the stick. She got that end. And like I said, I never used to talk to her about anything, so because I just never knew how to, you know? And I was still dealing with my dad issues. And it came a point in my life where I decided that I didn't want to know who he was, you know? Because for me, I thought it would have been better for me not to know who he was. I wish I never knew who he was in the first place. But at that time, when I decided to not talk to him, I said that, you know what, I was going to this would have been good for me because I wouldn't have to deal with this person treating me like I'm nobody. I wouldn't have to worry about whether they care for me, and I wouldn't have to invest myself. So if I didn't know who you were, then I wouldn't care, you know?
Yeah.
And I decided, you know, to leave that alone and not talk to my dad. And trust me, that was just the worst thing I could have ever done because I was still going through these problems because I never got to resolve these issues. Even all these times that I tried to, you know, come together with my father to make these things happen, it just never did. When my grandmother died, right, and my uncle, my dad's brother, I believe my mom asked him to talk to me. And he came and he sat down with me and he said, Crystal, he says, your anger, like he says, Crystal, your anger and your stuff that you're going through with your father, you need to let it go. You need to understand it and have forgiveness with that situation. And I just never understood what he was saying. I heard what he was saying, but I just never understood. And he says, when you're going to have your family, or you try to have a family, he says, you're just going to bring those issues with you into your family life. And he says, if you do not forgive what has happened to you, he says, you're going to have a lot of problems. And I listened to what he said, and, you know, until later part in my life, in my young adult life, when I started to, you know, I had my son, and I was living with my partner, and we having a family household. Things weren't so good, you know. There was still an angry person in this world, but nobody never knew why I was, you know, because I was still having, my dad was still alive, and I was still having these issues with my father. And it was playing not only with my dad, with my stepmom. I was having a lot of issues with a lot of people. And it solely had nothing, I felt like it was just me. But when I really look at the situation, I was just a child in a situation that was an environment of, I guess would be of an adult emotions, of their actions that, you know, it was me, but it wasn't because of me, you know, it was because of these adult actions that allowed me to think this way, you know, that affected me. It was because of them. And my dad, you know, I'm thankful before my dad passed away, I got to like make sure that we were on good terms, but we never got to close everything in our lives, you know. I just never got to tell him a lot of things, and he never got to tell me a lot of things. I felt like I was robbed of a childhood with my father because of his emotions. Not only that, but because of his wife's emotions and feelings. They robbed me of a childhood with my dad, and I blame him for that too, because you know what, he had a significant part to play in that. When my family life was trying to get together, it broke because of my own experiences with my father. Because I just never, it was just too much things going on in my life. I just never knew how to put everything together. And that broke me, to be honest with you. That relationship broke my own family relationship, and I realized what my uncle was trying to tell me about that situation. Because when my partner and I parted, I realized there was a situation where, you know, he wasn't so much involved in my son's life, and I realized that triggered me to my father's life with my father and myself. I was just like, I don't want my son to feel left out like how I did in this world, you know? And that brought me to a place back then. When my dad died, I said to myself that I was going to close all the I was going to close the wound itself. I was going to stitch it up. I was going to do everything. I wasn't able to tell him, forgiveness, but I talked to Father God. I also talked to my mom. I understood her situation, where she was coming from, why she left, and why I had to stay with my grandmother, and all the other stuff. And I explained to her what was going on at the time as a child and when I came up to Canada. And I asked her for forgiveness, and I forgave myself. Even though those issues and problems, I did forgive those, but I needed to do this as a closure for me to move on with my life.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, my childhood definitely played a significant part in my young adult life. I'm very thankful that my grandmother showed me certain things that allowed me not to go astray. I could have been worse, but I was okay. So yeah, it definitely played a part for me.
I appreciate that. That's a pretty deep share. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You know.
You're welcome.
You guys, I would never read the letter. I did bring it, but I ain't gonna read it.
You sure? I mean,
it's on the phone.
What, you brought a...
No,
what,
I brought
a letter to what, your father?
yeah, this was the first time I reached out to him, and I was just basically, as a child,
Yeah.
because when you're going through your moments as a child, you always have reaching points that you reach out to an adult, and sometimes they don't hear your cry. You know, they just blank you out, and there you are in the world by yourself.
Totally get that. Totally get that.
Yeah, it was just me as a kid just wanting to have that father-daughter,
connection.
that father-daughter relationship.
Is
It
it
never-
like a poetic letter? Like,
No,
is it
it's
something you wanna-
no, it's not a poetic letter. It's
Yeah.
nothing
I
like
think
that.
I know, even though I didn't write that letter,
Yeah.
I think I know that letter because
Yeah.
I've wrote those letters myself.
Is it like a journal letter? Is it like a
No,
journal?
it's not a journal letter.
Yeah.
I was just asking him. It was one of those times where I had asked him to pay for me to come to Trinidad on
Yeah.
a vacation, and he never wrote me back. I wrote him the month prior to that, and he never responded.
Yeah.
He gave me that blank stuff that he used to give me.
Yeah.
So I just basically poured out my heart to him and tell him, well, you know, this is a deal. It had nothing. It's not about money for me.
Yeah.
It's all about this connection, and that's all I ever wanted. I didn't want your money.
Yeah.
Because you never supported me like that. My mother did everything for me, you know? It
Yeah.
had nothing to do with that. It was just this connection, this father-daughter connection that I wanted, that I never, you know, got to experience.
So you never got a chance to share this letter with him?
I'm trying to remember if I did send out that letter. No, but I did have a moment.
Yeah.
Listen, moments normally happen, and sometimes you're not ready for them. I did have a moment with my dad. This was the first time him and I ever experienced something like this. Yeah, I was sitting in his back of his car, and he came to pick me up, and I was leaving the night before. I think, I was going to leave the morning, right? And he asked me if I went, and I said bye to the neighbors, right? And I said no. And he says, well, they've been so good to you. I said, well, you know, it's late in the night. And listen, Chin, you know, Caribbean people close up their gate by 6 o'clock. Once that sun set, you can't go be knocking at Caribbean people's door. They're already locked up with bolt and everything. So everything is just, you know, like, it's waste of your time. And then when you call them, oh, I have to go open the gate, lock this, lock that, unlock this.
They have about
So-
20 locks to open.
yeah, so they're just like too much work, you know? So he just started with me, and I was in the back seat. My friend was in the front seat, and I was in the back seat, and he just started, and he's like, who's you? And I'm like, what do you mean, who's me? Now, that's a wrong thing to tell me. At that time, I'm like, he's like, who's you and who you think you are? I was like, no, I's nobody. I said, I don't ask you for nothing, you know? And we're just driving, we're going to drop my friend, and all of a sudden, I just felt, and I knew I got a slap. I got a backhand. And that backhand came so fast, I didn't even realize it was. I just got a backhand.
Island folks got fast hands.
Yeah, I was remind you, I'm sitting in the back and it just went boom, and I'm like, did he just give me one? I'm like, he did. And when he slapped me, and I said, it had nothing to do with the money. It was never the money. I said, all I ever ask, and I've been asking from you, is to be there for me. To be there for me as a father and a daughter, like a daughter-father relationship, to be there. That's all it has always been. I've been asking from time.
Yeah.
You know, and we came out the car, and this was the first time I think my dad actually understood where I was coming from.
Yeah.
He was crying. Yeah.
How old were you at that time?
I think I was in my teens. This could have been like the second time I reached out. And even though we understood what the situation was, it still went back to how it was, to be honest with you. Like, I did have like I said, you know, my stepmom had a great part to play
Sometimes they
with
just
that.
can't break that chain. Like, as much as you said, you know, he might have had a breakthrough in that moment.
Yeah.
But it's hard for them to leave what they know as being a comfortable lifestyle.
That's true.
To now adjust to this. It's more easier for them to go to that because it's a safer place for them. And remember, sometimes men, they don't do emotions.
That's true.
They don't do emotions, yeah.
I think more so, you know, when you have your wife, you more want to please your wife too, right? Because that's who you see every day.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, he wasn't seeing me every day. You know what I'm saying? He had to live with her. So, strangely enough, I put myself in his situation to understand where it was. But he should have done the right thing as a parent. Because if he didn't want to be there, he should have just never been there. But don't feel that you're gonna show in and out. It's either you choose one. You're going to be there or don't be there. Because being in and out is hard for a child to process.
It's worse.
Yeah, it's worse than, yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all sitting at this table can relate to P's story in the sense of growing up in a single family home and with the father being absent. And I know in my situation, like my earliest memory of my dad, I was under 5, and I think it's like one memory I have of my father. But as I got older and when I migrated to Toronto, I remember my mom always used to tell me, like, my dad lives in the States, and so we used to go to the States maybe every 2 months. Me and my mom just drive up for the weekend. And she'll always want me to go and see him. But for me, I felt so uncomfortable seeing him. Because I didn't know this man. And you want me to go and have a connection with him, and I didn't know him. So the times that we used to go, I used to be like, he was talking to me, but as soon as my mom would leave the room, I would leave too. I'm not staying I'm not staying in the room with him. Like, I don't know you, type of thing. You know what I mean? And maybe that was a moment where we could have connected with each other, but I didn't feel comfortable, and the grown-ups around me didn't recognize that to initiate, a better environment where we could have connected. Like, I'm a child.
Yeah.
You guys are the adults, right? So we never had that connection. And for the greater part of my life up until recently, like, we've tried many of times, but it never happened. And not having a father figure in a woman's life, it can be very challenging when she is trying to have relationships with other men. And for me, how it affected me, it was if I was in a relationship with a guy and I saw where it wasn't working, I would do whatever it is that I could to make it work because I didn't want to lose another male quote unquote relationship. Right? I didn't want to, like, another failed relationship with a man. Right? So that was that aspect. And then there was you want to voice your opinion, you want to say something, but you held it back because you didn't want to hurt his feelings. But in naturality, like, recently I realized it wasn't that I wasn't trying to hurt the guy I was talking to feeling. I wasn't trying to hurt my dad's feelings. But my dad was never in those relationships. But I never made that connection. Right? And so it's weird. It's weird. And even as P said, you try to communicate with your father and say, this is what I want. I want a connection. I want a relationship. I want a father-daughter relationship. But they could never grasp that, right? And it could be very difficult, but I think sometimes what happens is we don't realize until it's too late that as the child that was never your problem.
Yeah.
That's the adult's problem. That's for them to fix. That's for them to work out. You know what I'm saying? But for some reason, and especially as females, we take on those burdens. For I don't know, maybe when you tell your story, or for another man to tell their story, they'll probably have a different perspective of their relationship with their father, and they probably say, it was what it was.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And we just dealt with it. But for females, we always want to fix. And so that's why we'll stick through it for many years, trying to fix that relationship with our father, because that's what we do. But natural, like, that is just what we do. And we shouldn't have to. We should have never been put in those positions because, as P said before, she was, as a child, put into grown folks situation when her mother, her father, the stepmother, the stepfather, they're the ones that were supposed to be working out those relationships. She shouldn't have to try to be the one mending those relationships. But we also have to remember that our parents weren't equipped with the tools to do those things. Because I know, especially my mom, they grew up in a house, there was 14 kids, okay? And it was, they were Seventh-day Adventists. So every day it was church,
Yeah.
okay? And after 6 o'clock, you can't do nothing, right? And so it was, and if my grandfather strayed, he strayed. Grandma said nothing. He came home and his food was still prepared. They did nothing. The kids were just like, deal with it. Don't say anything. So now when they start to have a family, they do the same thing. But it's only now for our generation where we're now able to see things from a different lens, because now our eyes are so much open outside of our neighborhood, outside of our family. We get to see things from a broader perspective, where we're now able to bring in different tools with dealing with relationships. And like P said, when her family got broken up, she realized she didn't want to put her son through the same situation that she went through. And her parents, they didn't see it that way. It was just like, yeah, make him go on. Or make sure go on, there was already somebody else lined up. They're just thinking of themselves. They're not thinking about the whole family unit, right? And to put in that work. Like, if you put in that work and, both of you equally put in that work and it did not work, then cool. You can respectfully, separate, but still keep in mind of the child. But people don't do that, especially back in those days. They didn't do that. So, you missed out on the bonding, the unity of a family. You missed out on that. And I remember I had a friend, she was like, daddy's girl. Daddy's girl to the T. And I remember one day she and her mom came to the house and she was just going off something about her dad. And I just started to holler. Like, I was bawling.
Yeah.
This is like the first time I ever bawled, because I'm like, I don't show emotions like that. And my mom was like, what's wrong with you? Like, why are you crying? So then, the friend's mom, like, I could have talked to the friend's mom more than I could have talked with my own mom. So she understood why I was crying. And she was like, oh, she just miss our father. She just miss our father. And my mom was like, miss our father, right? Because I don't talk about my father. So for her, it was like, what do you mean miss her father? I don't get that connection. Why all of a sudden she just start crying? So the lady was like, she just miss her dad, miss having that relationship. And I just remembered I cried so hard, like snot running down and everything. And then I was like, afterwards to myself, I was like, why am I crying about this man? I'm sure he ain't crying about me. Literally, I said that. And I think I was probably about 15, 16 at the time. And I was like, he ain't crying about me. And I think that was that was the first and last time I ever cried about my father. Because I was like, yeah, no, this is not how it's supposed to be at all. And I made that connection right there and then, and I let it go. Even though I kept on trying to have that relationship, I just knew it wasn't just for me to fix. That was for you to fix, And of course, there's a lot of other things that played into it why he wasn't around. But if you decide to have a child and you then have another partner, especially as a woman, if for some reason my partner and I, we're no longer together, and my partner has another child out there, and for me to say to him, no, you can't have a relationship with that child. What kind of woman am I?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I have a child with you. I would have never want you to miss out on, your child growing up. So why would I tell you not to be a part of your child's life?
True.
So that's a reflection of me as a woman, and that's not a good reflection at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, for a lot of women, it's easier for them to say, I don't want to deal with that. You know, because I guess in dealing with that, you're dealing with the whatever caused that situation in the first place. But that's family. That child has nothing to do with it. You know what I'm saying? But family, yeah, it's a very interesting. It's very complicated, and it affects you in many ways. But sometimes you just have to realize it's not your problem to fix.
Yeah, that's well said, P. And Shin. Like I said, that story that you shared, P, was very deep. It really makes you think about your relationships growing up and growing into adulthood, and then like you mentioned, Chin, as well. You know, molding and fashioning that relationship with your father is very essential, and with the brothers, like myself, you know, a lot of us just fanning off, like, you know what, you know, I'll be good, I'll be alright, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But deep inside, most of us are really hurting, and so like for my story, real quick, it's just like I grew up watching all these shows where you have both parents there in the household. Like, I mean, from the Cosby Show to Family Matters to the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Like, you name all these shows, they have that concept, right? So
Family unit.
yeah, family unit. And you think to yourself, wait a minute. You look at your family sometimes. I know it's just a television show, but you think, where's something's missing here in our household, right? Like, I have my siblings, and my mother's there working 2 jobs, and you really ponder on, wait a minute, the father figure there. Now, that's something very interesting. And for me, what would sum up the story for me real quick is, you ever watched the episode of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air when
Which one? I know all of them.
Will's father.
Oh, he was trying to get
by
back connected.
far
Yeah,
the
yeah.
best episode. Listeners, that is by far I don't remember the name of the episode.
With the figurine.
The
for
father,
Yeah.
the best episode. Like, I have respect for Will Smith, but I didn't really think he was a profound actor until that moment right there.
Yeah.
That moment, and in the moment where I think he got shot, or I think with
with
Carlton.
Carlton.
Yeah, Carlton wanted to
Carlton.
become
And the bank
gangster.
machine?
Yeah.
No, the bank machine, yeah.
Yeah, those 2 episodes, but that father moment was because in my life, my father showed up. Last time I seen my father was actually when I was 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Right? And the last time I remember, he said that, you know, we're going to do a lot of things. We're going to, you know, have fun. You know, I'm like, okay, you get excited, right? Just like P, how you mentioned in your story, you know, you just anticipate that moment. You get all excited. And then you realize, okay, I know he said he's going to show up. Maybe he's running late from work, or maybe he's,
He'll never
you
coming,
know,
brother.
And yeah, that's right. You know what I mean? You're looking out the window, waiting for him to come through, and
4
nothing.
o'clock turned into 10 o'clock.
Yeah, the countdown. And, you know, us as
Days,
children,
months,
we
yes.
stay up waiting.
Yes,
like
yes.
if you work with children, you know children, you have children, you know
They're waiting.
they're waiting, and if your word is your word to them,
Yes,
and they
definitely.
will remind you of that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I was waiting to remind him. And I mean, years come upon years. I'm not seeing this guy.
Yeah.
18 years old. I never forget this day. I'm in my bed. It's on a school night. I hear a knock on my door. Knock, 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 knock. My mom goes, answers it. I was watching one of those talk shows, but I was in my bed. Those late night talk shows. I don't know if it was Jay Leno or Letterman or even Arsenio Hall. Can't remember. You know what I mean? It wasn't Jerry. That's for sure. You know what I mean? I'm there. I hear this knock, and my mom goes to it, and I heard like having a little silent conversation with somebody. So I'm like, who the? Remember, you live in the hood, so you're just like, you know, you're up because you never know anything can go down.
Yeah.
Anything can pop out.
That's right. You know what I mean? But my mom knocks on my door now. It goes, your father's at the door. You know, our island parents, they don't give you no storyline. They just tell you as is. Your father's at the door.
Yeah.
And I remember telling her,
That's
and?
Yeah.
I mean, she's like, well, he wants to speak to you. You know? And I'm like, by the way, I have to be careful when I say and because my mom had a good right hand and left hand. So, you know, discipline, I got to be careful.
Yeah.
So I was just like, and not to disrespect her, but I don't want to see this guy.
Yeah.
You know what I
What
mean?
does
I
that
hardly
have to
know
do
this
with
guy.
you? Yeah.
You're kind of like how you said earlier, Chin, like, I don't really know this guy.
Yeah.
So why is he showing up at, like, I'm 18, I'm pretty much at this adult stage. What does he want? My mom's just like, he just wants to speak to you. I told my mom, I have nothing to tell this man. She's just like, she went over and she told him. You know what I mean? I'm surprised he didn't like barge in the door and this and that. That was it. I didn't
He
even see
left?
him. He just left. Now think about it now. if you really wanted, I'm not saying that he should have barged in.
No, but that's
But he
sad.
should have
Yeah.
made.
Should've.
He should have made
Yeah.
some kind of effort, right?
Some sort of commotion.
Yeah, because remember from when I was 5 to that moment and until now. So do you see the connection where I brought in the Will Smith movie? Because
Yeah,
I'm full of like anger inside now, man. I don't want to see this guy. You know what I mean? And that rage, going back to like holding in the anger, and
Yeah.
that rage kicked into when I was going into learning more about the Creator. Going to church service and stuff like that. They all tell you to forgive.
Yes.
But you have to ask yourself, how do you forgive somebody who was never there, who didn't really see your mom go through the struggle, working 2 jobs, doing everything. My mom, I couldn't get it. I couldn't understand why my mom was so just accessible to open the door. And it goes back to what you're saying. She's just trying to mold and fix things.
Yeah.
She goes, she tried to motivate me to talk to him. And I was like, what am I talking to him for? Like, I don't need to talk to him. For what? I'm 18 now. I felt like I was the man. You know what I mean? I wasn't a man. You know what I mean? I was a male, but I wasn't a man. Like, still, like, I didn't have no children. I had no responsibilities.
That was our anger speaking.
But that was the anger within, right? Because it carried on as I got older. And as I had to really go more into the scriptures, just from a spiritual aspect, you got to learn how to forgive. Because you know what? At the end of the day, when you don't forgive, you're really just hurting yourself.
Yes.
You're killing yourself inside.
Most
Right?
definitely. You're right about that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's not like I was too tired to get out of bed. My door was not too far from, the front door. But it's just that, what's he going to show me now? How to be a
Nothing.
man?
Yeah.
How to be a parent?
Yeah.
What's he going to do? I've been doing that. I've been helping my mom the way. I've been 18. Like I said, I've been working, helping her out. So what are you going to tell me? And a lot of brothers and sisters, they can relate to this. This is why I'm sharing that story, just like you ladies are sharing your story. You know what I mean? It's very key to understand, listeners and my co-host right here, as we all come and share our stories, is that family is very essential in life. We may not all come out of the best family, right? We may not fit those stereotypical shows,
yeah.
you know what I mean,
Yes,
that are
yes.
put to play before us. But at the end of the day, family is essential in life. You know what I mean? If you can patch up situations, try your best to. But in allness, like at the end of the day, that's what molds and fashions people. Family. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's very key. So I mean, like I said, this day, this is like live here. I mean, if I was to run into my father, I'm not even too sure if he's
You
alive.
probably
I
might
don't
even
even know.
recognize who he is. You probably wouldn't even know who he is.
Yeah,
Because you don't know.
To be honest, you know what I mean? But I would talk to him. I would forgive him. But I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, so much has gone past, but it'll be hard for him to show me how to be a parent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, I'm not going to hold that against him, but it's
He
gonna
did.
be... Well, he showed me...
He did show you how to be a parent, just to be the opposite of him.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely,
Yeah.
you see? And then those are the things that we got to put into account. So, I
Yeah.
mean, it plays a significant role. It really made me think when I have children. And it's interesting we talk about this, because I want to say this real quick, too. On my way here to our station, I ran into a good lady friend of mine that was with her granddaughter. And her granddaughter, like, I hardly see her granddaughter. But when I do see her granddaughter, there's a bond.
Yeah.
And I think the bond is kicked in is because the father figure is not in the picture. So when
Yeah.
she sees me, I'm asking her how school is. I'm talking to her as if she's my daughter. I don't
Yeah.
have any children yet. I'm engaged. I don't have no children yet. But I'm bonding with her, and as I'm talking to her grandma, she's leaning on my shoulder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you can sense that there's a need for a male responsibility.
Yes.
Not to neglect anything with the mothers. The mothers are the household. They're the bond of relationships. But the father figure plays a significant role, especially for daughters. And I say this for
Yeah,
daughters
it
because
does.
self-esteem is a huge issue with a lot of our sisters today.
Yeah.
You know, they think that, you know what, they have to be this image or they got to fit this. No. You know what I mean? You need to respect yourself so others can respect you. And you need the father in the life to
instill
emphasize
that.
that,
Yes,
instill that.
yes.
You know what I mean? And that's key, right? So when I talk to her as if she was my daughter. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? This is how I don't want to make the mistakes that my father made, because maybe, like I said, anyone can be a dad and mom, but not everyone's a
Yes.
parent.
You're
Absolutely.
definitely right about
And
that.
that's the key thing. So I mentally put myself in a situation where I'm constantly saying when the time comes, and me and Chantal have our 22 kids.
Yeah.
Hey,
She loves-
Chantal.
She's just like, she's shaking her head probably when she's gonna hear this.
22,
22
wow.
kids.
Wow,
Not
babe.
two. 22.
Stop at 2, girl. Stop at 2.
You know I love you,
Wow.
Shanti. But we're having, like
Jay has big plans for you, girl.
the army is coming. But you just want to have that fashion. Just, you know what? I want to be there for my son. I want to be there for my daughter. I want them to have respect, not just for themselves, but for others. And this is what we
Yes.
want. This is the best. We want the best for our children, you know?
Definitely.
And like I said, family, for that matter, played a significant impact on my childhood, on how I'm going to approach parenthood when I one day, God willing, become a parent.
Yeah.
So,
That's well said, Jason. Well said about
Thank you.
family too. And also to add about family,
Yes,
it also
please.
plays a role like if you have your parents get divorced too, that also
Yes.
does affect you. So for people
does.
out there who have your family, you know, you have your family unit and your parents do get divorced, I could understand how that can affect you as a child.
I know we have like plenty of more topics to discuss with this particular topic here,
Yeah.
but I think family is really such a big component of this conversation that it might just take the rest of our show.
I agree.
Last
Yeah.
night I was on Instagram because every night before I go to my bed I do an Instagram stroll just to make sure
Yeah,
you
Chin
know
is the Instagram queen
you know,
here between we
for
three
real.
here.
Because, things be popping off in the night.
All
and I
right,
need
tell
to
us what
know-
popped off on the gram,
No.
girl.
Well, the gram's been going on with its own little thing right now. Everybody's boycotting stuff, right?
Yep.
But earlier on in the day, there is this blog I follow, and it was a conversation about this particular famous couple. The husband had cheated. He had a baby outside of the marriage. They decided to separate. And then, through circumstances, whatever, family brought them back together.
Okay.
They're back together. However, the father has nothing to do with the outside child. And the wife, she's okay with that. Okay? This girl this entrepreneur girl, she made a post and she was asking her female followers if their husband cheated and had a outside child, would they be able to stay in that marriage and work it out, or would they leave? And the comment section was flooded with everybody, I'm leaving, I'm going, I'm not staying, I will fight, I will this, I will that. And then this one particular girl decided to share her actual story and said, she stayed in the relationship. And not only did she stay in the relationship, she took care of the other child that he had outside. And now her kids are, I believe she said, were 9 and 8. And at the time when that happened, the kids were 2. So now 9 and 8. And at the end of her telling her story, she says, now I'm in a place where I want to leave because I've been unhappy. For all those years that she stayed, she's been unhappy. And the only reason why she stayed was because she wanted a family unit for her kids that she never had.
Yeah.
Right? And
That's deep.
And when I first read the post, in my mind I was thinking, I'm like, I don't know, would I stay? Would I go? Would I fight? Would I say but at no point did I say I would want to have anything to do with that child, because that child has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
But then I also thought, like, would I be happy staying in that situation? And when I was reading her post, it was almost like me writing that post, right? And I was like, really? Would I have sat down all those years and be unhappy? Because my thing is, although you're trying to preserve that family unit for your child, you're teaching those kids you're teaching them a valuable lesson. And what you're teaching them is put your own happiness aside to please somebody else, regardless if that is your own child. Because my thing is, if the head of the household is not happy, there's no way that the people them underneath me are going to be happy.
That's a great point.
They're getting a false pretense.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So my thing is, well, if I would have just left when the situation happened, and this go for people who don't want to divorce either. If I would have just left when the situation happened, leave it on good terms, where, we're both equally in the child's life and we move on to separate partners, whatever, and still on good terms, compared to your staying, that's toxic. You know what I'm saying? Because you're no longer having any connection with that partner. You yourself is unhappy, and you're there trying to put on this fake facade for the kids. Kids see through everything, even when we think
do.
they don't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
They notice everything.
Yep.
So you're teaching your kids to put up, and you shouldn't.
Very,
you know
very
what I'm
true.
saying? But yeah, it's crazy the things that we'll put up with for family,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, no, that's a great essential point.
Yeah, family is so broad.
It's such a
So,
broad. Yeah, I mean, I
You
think-
you have bonding here too. That could be with siblings.
Yep.
When we talk about your family having your parents or your grandparents having 14 children.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could come in terms where people would have favorites
Yeah.
in their children. That's a problem because you favor this child more than the other, and you isolate the other children. That's
Yeah.
not good too.
It's not.
It has an effect on kids too.
Yeah.
Yeah, resentment. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not
It-
good, but I to be honest with you, I do see why parents would do that. There's some children who tend
Why,
to be,
Jay? Why?
well, let's just get into it. Shall we?
Why? Why am I not good enough?
I see like in certain examples that I observe, I seen that like there's certain children that really provoke their parents, and there's children who are just they listen, and I can see, I'm not saying it's right, but I can see why a parent would have more favoritism towards a particular son or daughter as opposed to the other sibling, just based on certain situations, listening. And like I said, it's not right because you should love your children
Yes.
equally. I'm pretty sure they came out equally, but in the sense of showing favoritism based on listening and being disciplined, I see that a lot. You know what I mean? And it's kind of hard because that kind of factors in why the parent will have favoritism towards this particular child.
One over the other.
Over the
I
other.
mean, it does happen,
You know
and
what I
I
mean?
get it. And it for every family,
Yeah.
there's always that one favorite child.
Yeah, most definitely. I understand that, but that creates problems later on.
Yeah, it does.
It does with especially if the parent leaves everything to one
that
to
favorite.
that favorite to handle when they depart. Then we have it does create problems. So parents have to be mindful when you have more than one children out there to treat every child equal.
Yeah, absolutely.
know.
And I will say this real quick, if I can add this in regards to, because I know we're talking about bonding, as you just
Yes.
mentioned, obviously isolation, but unity. One thing I would like to see more often is more, and I'm gonna select Black families. I like to see more Black families get involved with unified, team-oriented exercises or events. I'm not talking about your typical barbecue or the baby shower. I'm talking about just like go out there. I work with very different amounts of communities, ethnic
Yeah.
communities, and I rarely see Black communities have like they just say playing badminton together or just a group outing. Other than, like I said, barbecues, baby showers, and so on, right? Like, and it's just like one thing I notice about it is just like that plays a more significant role for the children and the parents because there's a trustworthy demonstration taking place. You know what I mean? And this is like, I don't know maybe if it's because of like a lack of fatherhood in a lot of families, but I think that would play a significant difference because I'm seeing this at the rec centers, at my community centers that I work at. It's very rare that you see the few Black families that come out. And then if you do see, here's another issue. If you do see the family that comes out, oh man, your family is like a coon family, man. They're weird because they're doing things together. They're classified as weird. So there's definitely a mental breakdown structure on family and how it's represented, especially dealing with social media today too. You know what I mean? I will say this too, and this might open up a can of worms, but I will say this that I find that there's obviously going back to single parents in a situation. I find there's a huge war. You know what I mean? And again, this is why I always pray for unity amongst our families and our communities because there's a huge war where I'll see a lot of the like single Black females, for example, right?
Yeah.
And this is based on what I've seen and observed. They they'll have like a daughter and a son. I'll use that example, and they hold their son as a prized possession in these pictures, but they don't really show their daughter.
No.
You know what I mean? Their daughter in these pictures, and it's just like, And then I also go into when the man is in the picture, the father of the child.
Yeah.
He doesn't like to be. I noticed that a lot of brothers don't want to be in the picture. It's sort of like they're hiding from people on IG or Facebook, but they don't want to take the family-oriented pictures. So you'll see
maybe they're up to extra activities out there.
Maybe, but
you can't be seen. You remember social
don't want to show the face.
Yeah, it's very common, and it's like, if you're able to lay down with the lady, you should be able to take pictures with the lady and with the children as well, right? So it's like it goes both ways, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean? Like for ladies, again, just holding up the son as a prized possession and kind of leaving the daughter, because I noticed that there's a lot of hostility between mothers and daughters. I notice very, very common, especially in our, I guess, so-called communities. So, I mean, going back to unity, I think that we should put more effort to have more unified exercises and events. You know what I mean? Like, cherish your family, man. Mold and fashion your family. Because at the end of the day, especially through hard times, family is needed.
That's what you have to lean back on, right?
Yeah.
That's true. You're definitely right. Family is needed.
Their group activity is, as you say, the barbecue, the cookout, or dominoes.
Yeah. Birthday parties.
But there is nothing else.
Yeah, that's it.
They don't find. Yeah, I know. Like back in the Caribbean, you used to. Like on the weekends,
they have sports day in the Caribbean and stuff like that. They do those things and stuff like that.
They have sports day and all the family.
Yeah, they still have
family.
Them.
Like you have your school colors, so you have your green, your yellow, your red, your blue, and families are coming out. Like the whole family coming out.
Yeah,
and you have your picnic basket because it's the whole day.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And you go out and you're cheering on for your child, and the whole family is there cheering on, and it's a great thing.
Yeah.
Everybody look forward to that, right? But even so, on the weekends, you would have people out there playing soccer.
Yeah.
Football, as we would say, playing football or playing what's that other one there?
What was it?
It's not tennis.
We talk cricket.
Cricket.
But Chin, I want to know why Chin have that bat real high. I'm like,
sorry, cricket.
I love cricket.
You know how much cricket?
You know how much tennis ball we bust down, like pop, and lost.
Like we're out there.
Never understood cricket. I mean, I just
neither do I. I just like to hit the ball and run to the next. But they have to tell me when to run because I don't know when to run.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like to learn. I just never understood.
Just a Chin run and I'll start running. But other than that, I know nothing about it.
Yeah.
But we used to be out there and playing and doing that stuff. But that's when times were different. Now everyone is like into all these different things. Everything's just drawing people away from family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Social media, that does.
Well, we did cover that on our social media topic, but there's so many things that's drawing people away from family.
Yeah.
That we don't have that time to invest like we used to.
Yeah. And you know what? It's interesting too because I work at a community center and it's predominantly like blacks. Mm-hmm. But one thing, when they have their family like outings or events at the center or the programs, it's every other ethnic group but the blacks. So when I'm in there supervising these groups, do you know who I see staring at the window?
The black kids.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you can only imagine, like you don't have to know Cleo to know what's going on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We don't believe in Cleo, by the way. That's a whole new episode.
Yeah.
But we really noticed. Yeah, for a free. But we noticed like that really makes you think. That really, P, you staring? P's like.
Something just came up in my head. I'll tell you guys later.
Okay, yeah. No, absolutely. P had us like thinking like, she seen a vision that we don't know about. Like,
yeah, I did.
But seriously though, it makes you really think. And you know what? They're looking at the window, and to be honest with you, when I was their age, I did the very
that same thing. Yep.
Right? So I know what they're looking at.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And it plays a role. You know, like I said, on our topic, does your childhood affect your adult life? And those type of situations can.
Yes.
And in most cases, it will. Right?
Absolutely.
So, shit.
Yeah. Family, it starts from home.
Yeah.
This is where we learn love and hate.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, this
You
is
know
where
what I
we
mean?
learn a lot of things.
That's
It's
our
true.
base. That's our foundation.
Mm-hmm.
That's our everything.
Exactly.
This
You
is
know?
where these are the people who mess you up in this world.
Yeah,
You know,
Is your
sometimes
family.
when you go out and you see kids and they start to do some destructive behavior, and you're like, we already know where that
Where-
came
yeah,
from,
yeah,
right?
the
That start,
origin.
yeah, that start from home.
You know?
They're right. They're right about
Exactly.
that.
Absolutely,
Definitely.
because sometimes they want to blame the child, right?
Yeah.
But it's no blaming the child. That's blaming foundation.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Ladies, final thoughts.
Wow.
We're there
This-
already?
Oh, wait.
This was a big one. This was a big one. But wow. I'm still a little bit speechless from this one because we did cover quite a lot and
We did.
And we
There-
still
and
needed
there's
to
still
cover some more.
that
But
we can-
We should do a part 2, but I mean,
yeah,
it's-
there's still more.
I
that
guess we can come back
definitely-
another time and revisit this. And yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, we definitely can.
But let's just remember, audience, please give your comments, your
Yes,
feedback. I
yes.
mean, we
Don't
given
be
ours.
shy.
Do not be shy. We want to hear, like I said, plug in your mind. We want to get those neurons stimulated in your mind. We want to hear your thoughts on these topics. We touched on friends, school, family. I mean, there's so much we could touch
much
on.
more,
So let us
yeah.
know. You know what I mean? Has anything? What about fashion? What about media, relationships,
Yes.
or even finances? Has that affected your childhood, growing up into your adulthood? Let us know.
Because we'll definitely love to continue this conversation. But yeah, we'll definitely want to hear from you guys. So please plug in. P, is there anything you want to say as we finish off here?
Yes, for anybody out there, I guess children and even teenagers and young adults, I guess if things had bothered you in your past with your childhood, come to terms with it, understand why it happened, and forgive that process. It may be hard for you to do that, but it's very important that we forgive that process, even if it didn't have, even if it wasn't our fault. We still need to forgive that, to close that wound and be okay in life. And remember, childhood experience, it does affect you. Even though we may not think it does not affect us in our adult life, it definitely does.
Yeah.
So don't go into this world thinking it's because of you. Sometimes it's not really because of you. It's because of the adults sometimes, like Chin says. It's the
Absolutely.
adults' fault sometimes. So unfortunately, we are children and we're vulnerable and we have no say as a child because we're here living this world and your parents make all these decisions for you. So, just forgive. It goes a long way. I've tried it and it works. It sure does work, guys.
I co-sign.
It sure does work.
Yeah.
In regards to me, like I said, I think P summed it up very well. The only thing I would just add on is, character. These things do happen for a reason, and it's going to build character.
Yeah.
And just feed off of that. You could always turn a negative situation into a positive, and you never know who's listening. Share your story. You know what I mean? We're doing it.
Yes.
Why not you?
Yes.
Share your story. You never know who's listening, and you never know who you can uplift at any given moment. So just the fact that listening to P's story with her father, Chin
Yeah.
with yours, it has really opened my eyes in regards to, understanding where someone's coming from.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just don't look at, I look at them and I can see, I can see P, I can see Chin,
Yeah.
but you never know what's dwelling inside. You know what I mean? For you to
Yes.
express yourself, it means a lot. So like I said, share your story, build character, negative situations, always flip them to a positive because you never know who's listening.
Definitely.
What I want to say is we're in the Black community, there's this stigma of reaching out for help. And I think in a lot of our situations, if we would have had someone to speak with, whether professionally or someone who you can confide in, it would have helped many of us to deal with our issues a lot quicker.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So please to find that one particular person that you can confide in and who can assist you with dealing with your emotions. Because sometimes it's not easy to turn to a parent.
Oh, definitely.
Yep.
you know, or to turn to a friend. But find someone, whether it is that teacher or is it someone from the library or someone from your church, but find someone with whom you can communicate with openly. And don't ever feel like you have to take on the world by yourself. You really don't.
True.
You really don't have to take it on by yourself. And I know sometimes, even for me, y'all feel so stoic and you have to put on this front. You really don't have to. And as Jay says, you know, you can take your own situation, speak about it, and help someone else.
True.
You know, and that's what we're all here for. We all go through different situations, but if we don't speak about it, then how are we going to be able to help someone else? Because stuff that we go through, there might be a lesson in it. Maybe not for us, but there's a lesson in it for someone else. So share your story. You know, stay tuned, plug in your mind, and don't close off from anything. Please to share your story with us.
Yes.
Because, listen, we are so interested in hearing from you guys as we've poured out ourselves to you.
That's right.
We definitely want to come back and touch on this topic again in the near future, but we definitely want to hear from you guys. So, with that being said, thank you, one and all, for showing up and being here with us. I know we went over an hour today, but the topic was just so great, we could not help ourselves. And to each and every one of you, have yourself a blessed week. Walk safe in whatever it is that you do. Keep it positive. Whatever you speak into this world is what you will manifest it to be. So be blessed and stay safe until we meet again.
Absolutely.
All right. Take care, guys.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Plug in Your Mind.